have a question for you. Do you think the future of custom bike building is going to be electric? If you're like me and you still prefer the sound and feel of a real combustion engine, or maybe it's the looks for you, I want to share a conversation with you that I had with Lucc at the Bike Shed show. Lucc builds amazing custom motorcycles. I'm going to link his Instagram down below. Check out all of his builds. He shared a few tips for first-time builders, and he explained how he built this special BMW.
My name's Lucc Muis, and I'm from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And we just built a couple of bikes that we took to the Bike Shed show, and we're doing this full time now. And
your bikes look amazing.
Thank you very much.
So you did it full time. How did you get into building bikes?
I got into building bikes when I was already quite young. I just loved it on TV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My dad never had a motorcycle, but his best friend built classic racers, and I was always fascinated about that. And my dad used to be a graphic designer, so that designing got all the tools already as a young kid. So I was working on Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that, always drawing bikes and bicycles and stuff like that. And when I was 18, I immediately got my motorcycle license. And when I got my first bike, like straight 2 weeks before I actually got my license, and just started taking it apart and started modifying it. And then,
which was your first bike?
A Honda Shadow TVC 600. So started off with the barbers, chopper kind of thing, and now I just do everything.
It's interesting because I learned on that bike.
Oh, serious? Oh, that's pretty. We're just a bit too tall for it, but that's about it.
But nice. And then how did it develop from there?
Because I always knew that I wanted to do something with engineering and with design. So I went to study in Zwolle. I did that for 5 years, and when I graduated, I immediately started working at Motorcycle Storehouse, which is a big wholesale company, and I started working there on their product development as a new department. So basically got all the tools and everything just like thrown at me.
Cool.
And did that for 6 years. And then I got some great opportunities already building like custom bikes for myself, just selling them on. And it was quite successful. It's not a good way of getting into motorcycles, because most of the time you're actually losing money on that. But that progressed and got more projects, more bikes, and eventually I got to build a bike for Indian motorcycles. And when that happened, things just took off, and I decided not to do such a project anymore while working at Motorcycle Store. So then I just made a decision to start for myself, and they still work with them a lot. But now I've just got my own time management and just doing builds for customers, and like stuff like the BMW. It's just something that I just want to try and want to see if it works, and develop that on as a kid, because we do everything from an engineering point of view. So we do a lot of 3D scanning and trying to figure out everything up front, and do a lot of research as well, and then stick to a design and stick to the technical aspects that we want to achieve. And then if that works, then...
Is it still like in the beginning that it's a constant learning process? Or
of course, it's all the time. It's a learning process. Because when I started for my own company, it was about 2.5 years. So I've been doing this now for about 10 years, and still learning new stuff. Like things are developing, especially with EV, and also with manufacturing stuff. We use a lot of 3D printing as well, and that wasn't that available like 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Absolutely,
even. And all of those extras and like a community, getting to know people, getting to get some insights into how other people do stuff. Like an event like this is also really cool for that. Just looking at bikes, getting excited.
Do you get the time to walk around and check out
a little bit? Not that much. Like every moment I'm standing with my bikes, get talking to somebody, which is nice. So and it's the first time again since 2 years. To actually go to proper shows. So that's
And do you have employees that work for you?
I've had 2 interns. And one is actually coming back next semester to do his graduation with me as well.
Cool.
So still got one spot open. It's unpaid, to be honest.
Is that more on the design side, like?
It's more on the engineering and the design side, because I think it's a bit what's the word for it? Like to feel comfortable having them work on a customer's bike while still being a learner. So they don't do that. They get involved in little projects, designing little components, and everything's got checked.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of like the 3D scanning and the 3D engineering, and they just learn a lot. And it's all based on automotive, so either a motorcycle or a car, and the new things.
Do you have a tip for first-time builders? Like, what would you be your top tip?
Top tip for first-time builders. I got a good tip. Just don't try to, because there's so much stuff that you can get inspired by, but stick with what you really want to do. And don't go jumping around. I've seen this, I want to do that, because that will kind of mess up your design along the process. And I always start with a very visual design on paper. Make that. It doesn't matter if you're a good drawer or anything, or you can actually find somebody to do that for you if necessary. But stick to the plan, and that makes progression really well, and makes your final result up to how you imagined it to be. So that will be my big tip.
Was your first project like that as well? Did you have like a proper plan, everything laid out?
So I started working with, because as I said, I worked with Photoshop as a kid already. So it's kind of in my DNA. And I just drew up the design and stuck with the design. And my first build, it took about a year and a half to finish. In the meantime, I went off to study in Ireland for half a year, and then I got back. And then I still stuck with the design. It changed a few little things, aesthetic-wise, but the design is still that same design. So,
because I guess, at least for me, like, I'm just getting into Photoshop and stuff like that. It's like harder to do it that way. I know kind of like from pictures what I want, have a plan, but it's like not, I always envy the people who have like super clean renders from their bikes, and it's like,
let's just take time and practice.
Just learn,
That's just it.
Nice. So now, how long do you take for a bike to build? It probably depends on the bike.
We build about 4 bikes a year. That's fair amount, and as just doing it by myself. Sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit less, depending on what the customer wants. If you're going for a very exclusive high-end build, then it's probably maybe 5 months on a project, or 4, and if it's a small project, we can do it in about 2 months, 3 months. Because with the design process that we take, we do not necessarily have to do a lot of manual labor up front. Making a gas tank is very time consuming when you're doing it from scratch. But when you're doing it from 3D and start with from engineering point of view, we can design the gas tank about 2 days, have the printer set up, and then have them make the molds, and then make it either of polyfiber, or then we have templates for an aluminium gas tank or something like that, and then it's just like Lego.
So cool.
So that makes our process.
Like, the tools today are so crazy.
And if you know how to use those, then that makes my life a whole lot easier. And that makes it easy to get to a certain quality level. And also time framing, and sometimes it actually is more project management than actual bike building. So that's quite.
Do you enjoy your job every day?
It doesn't feel like a job.
Perfect.
No, it doesn't feel like a job. No.
Would you mind sharing a few words about the BMW?
Yeah, of course. What do you want to know?
I know it's an electric conversion kit. First of all, how did you come up with the idea to put it in the original engine? Because that's quite unique, right?
The idea came from the vision that there are a lot of people that make like electric classic cars. So they take like a Volkswagen Beetle, and then they take out the engine and they put in an electric motor. But the design is still the body itself. And if you want to do that with a motorcycle, like 90% of the aesthetic of the motorcycle is part of the engine. So what I wanted to do is, the principle is just take out the crankcase and shove in an electric motor. But that's easier said than done. So we had to 3D scan the original crankcase, and then we re-engineered that to nicely fit with the electric motor. Same counts for like the battery cell, because we didn't want to modify the frame as we wanted to have it as a kit. So you don't need to grind or weld anything to the bike, and we also still want to have that same feeling of riding a motorcycle. So a little bit of noise, because it makes like a supercharged whining noise with still having the original gearbox. So you still get those gears grinding, and the aesthetic, because now we emphasized it with not having the cylinders on there. But you can actually, if you take out the sleeves of the cylinders, you can just stick everything on and make it look like a complete original.
That's so cool.
An original engine, besides a few details which are a little bit different.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's the thing that we kind of really went into trying that. And the idea came to me about 5 years ago, I think, and I've always wanted to do it. And when I got the interns, I actually had them just draw up a test setup, which was just sheet metal holding a fixture with a very cheap motor and just seeing if it works.
Yeah.
And even with the very small motor and not like the correct parts at all, it still worked. We still went like 50 kilometers an hour, which is about 30 miles an hour. Yeah, anyway, so it went about 50 kilometers an hour. But you immediately do like a power wheelie. So like the torque level of electric bikes is just such a different way of riding. So it adds a new experience to it as well.
Absolutely.
While also maintaining just shifting, clutching, everything. But you can take off in third gear if you want to, because it's more of a riding setting than actual gears that you need to ride. But the motor, we picked a motor for its RPM, so it still works similar to what you would normally do. So in third gear you can easily go 80 kilometers an hour, and then you would shift to fourth, which we see a little bit more as an overdrive, and you can actually hit that 120 kilometers an hour, and that's fine for a bike. And you can get about 80 kilometers out of it on range, which for an old-timer bike, getting around town, it's perfect.
Yeah. Which bike are you riding at the moment? Like,
at the moment, my personal bike's at the Lucc stand. It's an MT-07.
MT-07.
Yeah. So and
also
so
completely customized,
completely customized as well. Yeah. And it's just a cool powerhouse. It's just been hooning around on a bike, but I would very much like to build my own, because this is my own, but making a different electric motorcycle as well. And it's just
cool. All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
That was perfect. It's my first time like doing this, so I'm probably more nervous than all the people I interview. Something I didn't know when talking to Lucc was that he is actually the builder of my most favorite bike at the show. I just couldn't stop obsessing about this Red Indian. Lucc, if you ever watch this bike is amazing. It was hands down my absolute favorite. But anyways, if you're also building a custom bike or you have built one yourself, I'd love to hear your build story. And if you want to jump on a quick Zoom call, just chat about the bikes, leave a comment down below and we'll figure something out. And if you enjoyed this conversation, you definitely have to hear what Otis has to say, because he has built one of the craziest first time builds I've ever seen.